up, guys? Welcome back to the episode of Bone Zone. I am very tired, but we're doing Bone Zone anyway. So this episode is literally going to be about abortions. We're not going to be talking about like whether or what is classified as an like a living person, like, you know, a cell, fetus, baby, whatever. We're not going to be talking about that. We're not even going to be talking about like the weeks of abortion, that kind of thing. We're going to be strictly talking about like, you know,
the pros and the cons
of abortion,
of lifting
of like overturning Roe versus Wade, what law would look like if it was actually rolled out, and some precautions as it pertains to contraception. Because I don't really want my channel to be full on political, and I've never claimed to be full on a political channel. And I just feel like politics are something that go over people's heads. So I'm gonna try to keep this as strict to like, you know, about what
we
would
do
happen.
Most times.
So the first thing I want to say is this is, as of right now, it is June 23rd when we're recording this. So there's not been a verdict about whether or not this actual law will go into play yet, or this actual ban will go into play, or if Roe versus Wade has been overturned. But if you don't know, or if you've been living under a rock, Roe versus Wade basically allows women to have like abortions. It essentially is something that protects abortions, or protects the women's right to abortion. It's a lot more involved than that, but I'm obviously not going to go in full on in depth. That is something you can do your own research on. But essentially, overturning this would allow states to then come up with their own abortion laws, and essentially, if they wanted to ban abortions outright, they are allowed to do so with no like precaution,
real consequence.
Yeah, with no consequence. There would be nothing wrong with them actually doing that. Now, the issue lies in the fact of there would be 15 states. I don't remember which 15, but there would be 15 states.
I think it's the majority of it is like Bible Belt.
Yeah, a majority of the states would end up going into some sort of, you know, either they were pre-Roe, meaning that they had banned abortions before, you know, the whole entire thing of like.
Hello.
Hi, Purple. We're talking about abortions. We're doing Bone Zone.
Yeah, we're in Bone Zone right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. What are you guys talking about? Hopefully
Abortions.
something happy.
Abortions. Anyway.
Talking about abortion.
God fucking damn it.
Hold on.
That was exactly the reaction that
we were talking
I
about.
expected.
Anyway, so 15 of these states will be automatically changing to completely abortion, or completely banning abortions, or making it very strict for abortions. Incest and rape do not count as reasons for abortion. And we'll get to that later. But this whole entire thing is all based on the idea that women should not get abortions, or what exactly is life, what is considered life. Is life the point of conception? Is life the point of, you know, having an actual embryo? Like, what is considered life? That is the whole entire point of this whole entire, like, debate. And, yeah. So...
yeah, that's the point of reference that we're going off of, is if, you know, whether or not, you know, you get pregnant, is that what was it? Like you said, conception.
The point of contraception at the point of condoms.
They want to take it away. But yeah, like, does life start at conception? Does life start as the baby, you know, develops its heart and brain? Like, when does it start? Because we've never really gone into, well, everything that I've read on it, it's always been like back and forth of,
like, I've always seen a lot of 12 weeks, like before 12 weeks you can get an abortion, which I can understand, but taking into consideration this, and I was eventually planning on having an episode that's outside of Bone Zone that's specifically political talk, but this whole entire thing of like 12 weeks before an abortion, let's just put this into perspective. Typically it takes 3 to 4 weeks for you to really be able to tell whether or not you're pregnant. Now you have to go and get a, you know, ultrasound, or not ultrasound, a pregnancy test, and, you know, that kind of thing. That usually takes about a week to 2 weeks to actually get an appointment. So now you're already at about the 6-week mark. Okay. So after the 6-week mark, now if you don't want to keep the baby, you have to basically make a choice quick. Let's say you don't want to keep the baby and you want to go through with an abortion. Now you have to actually schedule the abortion and actually go for the abortion. Typically, there's such long wait lists for abortions, and they have to go through tons of checks. You need to get a ton of documents settled up before you're actually able to go to the clinic and get an abortion. It's not like just a snap of the finger and you're there. What it is most likely they can get you within 6 to 8 weeks if you're lucky. And that is if you literally decide, like, right then and there that you wouldn't get an abortion. Most times, most people want to talk with their actual, like, spouses. Most people want to talk with the person that they're with. Most people, that's hoping that you can even get into an appointment by the 3 to 4 week mark. Or that's hoping that by the 3 to 4 week mark whether or not you're pregnant, because most of the time it goes undetected for a little bit. Like, there's so much different things that can go into it, that making a 12-week deadline, like, you have to make sure that it's by 12 weeks, is virtually impossible unless you're making everything as a split decision. But anyway, that's not the point of today's episode. Today's episode is just purely about what a complete abortion ban would cause, and whether or not contraception is next. So this whole entire thing.
What does contraception mean?
So that's like Plan B, condoms, that kind of thing. So, stuff to prevent pregnancy. So one of the issues of, like, I guess this whole entire, like, abortion ban thing is that now companies, and well, not just companies, but now, like, people are looking at, well, if you are getting rid of, like, abortions, then what about contraceptions? Specifically IUDs and Plan B and, like, birth control. Those are the main things that people are looking at, but there's also been talk about getting rid of, like, condoms, or, like, making condoms more expensive. The issue with making condoms more expensive is that they're not readily available anymore. Now there's going to be a ton of unwanted pregnancies, but we'll get to that. If they were to get rid of, like, let's say birth control not only helps prevent with pregnancy, but also can help regulate hormones. So people that don't have regular periods and have fairly regular periods might go on birth control. People that have PCOS might go on birth control. There is a ton of reasons why people would not want to go on birth control, and that's completely understandable. But getting rid of birth control completely can also really affect people who are not only planning on, being abstaining from sex, but also people that need this sort of that need birth control to be able to regulate hormones. Birth control is basically a big hormone regulator, and without it, you're basically going to be, well, not being able to
you'd be paddling up Schitt's Creek.
The same goes with kind of like IUDs. IUDs are a little bit different. IUDs are also something that regulate hormones, but they are more or less helping to prevent, like, the sperm and, like, an egg actually joining. And that's what an IUD does. And of course, Plan B, or any sort of emergency contraception, obviously is something that you take within, like, 72 hours of, unprotected sex, and it is supposed to prevent you from getting pregnant. There's, like, a 99% effective rate on that. But getting rid of those kinds of things, like, I can kind of see the point of view from certain people and from certain politicians saying that they want to get rid of it. And the reason why I can see their point of view is because it is a hormone regulator, and that can kind of go into a little bit more of a hormone regulation. Like, one of the things that I've seen is that, getting rid of or having birth control, or getting rid of birth control, might also help with people who are taking, like, testosterone blockers and that kind of thing. I've seen, like, a link of people, like, trying to make some sort of argument that, birth control is the same as these sorts of hormone things, or these hormone regulators that, people who are trans use, which I don't think is the case at all. Those are two completely different avenues, and I feel like people who compare those types of things don't really know the difference between the two of them, and don't really know what they're really talking about. But once again, not the topic for this episode.
Well, also, you know, old legislators thinking that they know what's new, you know?
Yeah, that's another thing. The other issue that also comes with this, like, on this topic of like contraception, before even getting to that, one of the main issues that they were having, or one of the things they brought up, was condoms. Now, condoms, there's a lot that can go into them. They have like an 85% effective rate as it stands now. But making condoms more expensive or less readily available, or even just outright saying like no more manufacturing of condoms or whatever, you're gonna have a lot of unwanted pregnancies. Like, there's 4 things that you can get that are bad. The first thing is STDs. Like, condoms are used to prevent STDs. And without condoms, you're going to be seeing a lot of people with, there's going to be higher rates of STDs transmitted. There's going to be higher rates of, obviously that sort of thing is being the main thing. But like, the other thing is just like, you have now the issue of, unwanted pregnancy, which kind of leads to like a second and third issue. Unwanted pregnancy, especially teen pregnancies. I know like a lot of teens tend to use condoms because of the fact that, well, not only can
They're
they
so
get
readily
them,
available.
they're so readily available. And there's some people that argue like, oh well, if they're so readily available, teens can use them, and it's gonna promote sex in teens, which is not the case. And if you're going
Well,
to
even if it is the case, it protects them. It gives them a safeguard into if they were to have sex, it would be the best way for them to do it without any sort of repercussions or life-altering problems if they regret it later down the line.
Mm-hmm. And of course, unwanted pregnancies, just really common. I mean, you have the common ones without protection, like rape, incest, and of course like medical stuff is but and we'll get to that later, because that's a whole different topic in and of itself. But the fourth kind of thing that people don't really realize with getting rid of condoms, or like making them less really expensive, is like, there is so many things that a condom can do outside of just sex that people will no longer have access to. And I feel like,
Well, what do you mean by that? I
okay,
didn't.
You
so
can no longer
condoms,
make those cool condom balloons.
believe it or not, there's actually condoms can be used in a survival situation for multiple different uses. It can be used as like a hair tie. It could be used to hold water. It can be used to, condoms can actually be used for a lot of different things. That's a whole
I
thing
get
in and of
that.
itself.
It's just, I feel like in the eyes of a lawmaker, they'd look at you and be like, well, we're not talking about survival, we're talking about, like,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about how is it good for people to have these avenues of having sex, because it just promotes promiscuity, which honestly, why, it's like, why would it matter? Why does my sex life matter to you? I mean, if it's affecting people, then yeah, then there should be a stop, but a lot of the time it's not.
And then, after that whole entire thing, we have the topic of just overall what is considered right for an abortion. So in the states that are doing some sort of abortion limitation, not necessarily a complete ban, but limiting what you can get abortions on, like medical exemptions and stuff like that. Some states are going as far as to say that rape and incest are no longer considered appropriate like reasons for an abortion.
Yeah, and that's horrible.
Which
What states?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I can look it up real quick.
But yeah, there's been news about like some states saying that rape and incest are no longer considered proper like reasons for abortions. And well, first off, that's completely dumb. But also, it really undermines the fact of women who have been raped or abused or anything like that. And not just women, but also men who have, been caught into that as well. For some, and of course you have, like, this whole entire thing of, like, now you have all these babies because you're not allowed to get an abortion from them. Where are they going to go? Are they going to go into foster care, adoption? Like, you're going to have places just flooding with kids now, like unwanted kids. And I'm not an advocate for abortion or against abortion, but, like, at the same time, you also have to think about the long-term effects of this on the world itself. You're going to have a ton of kids now, just a ton of kids. And
Okay, so the states that are that would immediately overturn Roe is Kentucky, Louisiana, South Dakota, and bans that go into effect after 30 days if Roe is overturned is Idaho, Tennessee, Texas, and bans that require a process step to implement if Roe is overturned is Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Utah, Wyoming, and yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Yay,
That's a lot of
Michigan's
states.
No longer in political bullshit.
But if you think about it, these are all Bible Belt or, like, heavy Catholic or Christian prominent states. Where, where the baby is, or where even in the womb, the baby is sacred. The baby is alive because of the soul, Just going off of what I know in my experience with religion, as a Mormon, that was the big thing of why they didn't like abortion, was because you are severing the soul before it even has a chance to acknowledge its being. But I don't care about storybooks. The Bible is just a storybook to me.
And then of course, like, on that same avenue of, like, Bible Belt states, like, you have, like, this whole entire thing of, like, what is considered life. Like, do you consider, like, sure, severing the soul or whatever, like, if we're taking that out of the question, what is considered life? And that's not a thing that we're going to be talking about here, but you have this whole entire thing
I
of,
can
like,
tell you right now, I think I gained consciousness when I was 3.
I gained
Because,
self-awareness when I was 10.
like, self-awareness when I was, like, 3, where my earliest memories are from when I was 3, maybe even 4. But, like, it was, and that's where it's also kind of weird too, because if you throw that into the mix, most babies aren't conscious. They're not aware of themselves in their life. They don't actually have a, like, a quote-unquote life. But, you can't put quotes on that. So, I mean, you wouldn't put down a baby if you don't want it, That's when you give it to adoption. But if adoption, because everyone in the Bible states and all that shit say, like, hey, just give up your baby for adoption. You know how inundated and how just dated how inundated adoption centers would be and how outdated they are as well? Like, they function basically like a boarding school in the 1700s.
Wait, Kendall, you bring up another good point. If they did outright ban abortions, the amount of fucking traffic that abortions would be getting would mean they'd have to construct so many goddamn more abortion centers, and just the sudden blast of children. Well, not just that. Oh, sorry, adoption centers. Sorry, I'm stupid. Anyway, yeah, it just blasts
but then
with a bunch
of course you have, like, also the rise of death in women. People are going to be wanting to get rid of these children in whatever way they can, and if it's illegal for them to get an abortion in their state, they are going to try doing at-home abortions, which can cause death. You're gonna see
And
a lot
not
of death.
just that, sometimes the baby is actually lethal to the mother. And, you know, the mom can be like, I would rather live than have this baby. Which is, you know, you haven't had the baby yet. The baby is still just like,
Cells.
it's just cells. Yeah, it's just cells at that point. It's a cluster.
It's in
It's
the,
not
it's
together.
in the beta phase.
Exactly. Not even beta. It's like pre-alpha, 0.1.
Pre-alpha is right after beta.
No, other way around.
Haha, I made
Oh.
everyone self-confused.
Okay, never mind. Whatever.
Well, either way.
My whole entire thing is just like, you know, you also have another topic that, because we were kind of talking about this before the episode. Another thing is like, if your state is banning abortions, right? You know, of the states that would be banning abortions, if you decide to go to a different state to get an abortion and then come back to your original state and like the police find out or someone snitches on you or whatever, you can be charged with murder. You can be charged with a felony, second-degree murder, or even manslaughter, depending on, you know,
Premeditated without passion.
like it's
ruinous.
it's not only just ruinous, it's a felony. I mean, murder charges stick with you. I mean, any felony really sticks with you, but murder and rape are two
Is
that
like
you
the
can't
number
get rid
one.
of. And you know,
Yep.
especially since, you know, you won't get hired for jobs if you have a murder case against you. You won't get hired for jobs regardless of what it was. You know, if abortions are being considered a murder, then think about the amount of people that are going to go to jail just because they had an abortion. Like, you know, just imagine, like, oh, why are you in jail? Well, I had an abortion and I was charged with murder because of it. You know, and just imagine this too. Like, imagine you are, you know, a child or something and you were raped by someone in your family. Not only do you not get the choice of abortion in your state and have to run away to a different state and, you know, potentially run the risk of, you know, getting an abortion.
I do
in a
want
state.
to give it like advise people that we are talking about really dark topics.
Yeah.
So
I put a
yeah,
disclaimer. I'm gonna put a disclaimer at the beginning of the video. Don't worry.
all right, yeah. So like if we're saying this purely with the thought of the victims in mind. We're not looking to be like, this is what happens, blah blah blah. But you know.
But you know, anyway, like I was saying, you know, imagine like, you know, you ended up being raped by someone in your family. But not only do you have to deal with being raped by someone in your family, but not only can you not get an abortion in your state and have to go to a different state, but if you come back and someone finds out or the police find out, you can be charged with murder. So now not only do you have to think about, you know, being raped by someone in your family or just being raped in general, and, you know, having to get an abortion and get rid of a kid, but you also have to think about getting charged with a fucking felony. Like, that can be very traumatic, especially if it's a kid. Like, think about it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If it's like a 13-year-old who ends up getting raped or something, and then, you know, goes to a different state or something, and, you know, that sort of thing, and ends up, you know, coming back and ends up getting charged with a felony, like, just think about how much of a mind fuck that would be. And most of the time, felonies can do one of three things: either A, it's life in prison without parole; B, it's you know, a sentence for, you know, X amount of years with parole, or, you know, you'll have a sense of just X amount of years. Well, with certain murder charges, especially like manslaughter and second-degree murder, which is what they're planning on, you know, making it, that's most of the time it's life. It's not just a simple, you know, get out of jail after, you know, 40 years. It is a life sentence, and you are stuck in there with, like, out the ability for parole.
And if you somehow manage to be let out, you will be shunned upon by society as, you know, you can no longer get a job. You will no longer be able to. You'll have to make constant fucking negotiation for anything, literally. Just the fact that you have a charge, a felony, on your record.
And that fact of like, you know, you are basically the fact that not only is it fucked up that you're gonna be having to get an abortion and being, you know, raped or whatever, but also the fact that it's considered a felony, like that's what really gets to it, you know. And I feel like people that support the whole entire idea of ban, like, you know, obviously, like I was saying earlier, I'm not, you know, pro-choice or pro-life. I'm just speaking from the facts. If you end up going to a different state, getting an abortion or whatever, and then coming back and getting a felony charge, like, that stays with you. And of course, you know, you have a majority of the lower, it's a majority of the, like, the lower states, or like, you know, these Bible built states, you basically like have to go to a state that isn't on that, and some people could be traveling hours. Considering how expensive the gas is right now, imagine people having to travel hours just to get an abortion, and each waking hour that they're driving there is another hour that this baby is being developed. That's
exactly.
an hour away from potentially not being able to get an abortion. Because even the states that will allow abortions, some of them will be restricting it. So
yeah, you don't want, and that's it's the horrific reality of it, is that we know that there's going to be people who are that desperate enough that they will do that. And like you said, if there's a snitching campaign against it, like, fuck, man, like, extradition through states is a thing, you know? So, like, I feel like at the same time, too, that would cause major civil discourse where it's like...
And then then you, of course, you have like, oh, well, you know, you have an enemy. Well, the enemy finds out, snitches on you. Well, perfect revenge.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
and
that's a whole
let's
thing.
say you're from Alabama, and, you know, the whole incest thing happens, and you're like, fuck, I need to get this away. And you do drive from Alabama to California. This is where it's going to get kind of weird, because California is very pro-choice. You have a choice, and that is inalienable. It would definitely cause blowback between each state, because it's like, this is human life. You're taking another human life, and it's, well, you are preventing a human from making the choice of their life.
Mm-hmm.
You have the right to the pursuit of happiness. And I feel like a lot, like, women who end up passing away from, like, you know, having a baby, or like know that if they have this baby, it will cause severe complications for the rest of their lives. I feel like that freedom of choice would be very juicy to them, you know? Like, it would be something that would be wanted.
And, you know, then you have this whole entire thing. There's also, I don't remember, there was another charge that they were going to create because of this bill that was going to be like, if you cross state lines for an abortion, you know, other than the murder charges, if you cross state lines, you were going to get charged or fined for crossing state lines for it. Like, it was going to be a big thing. You know, like, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. That's the bottom line.
It's just going to cause a lot of problems.
Like, then that's not even getting into the whole entire, like, what is considered a baby. Like, that's not even getting into half of the abortion things. That's not even getting into half of this. This is just the general things from just the surface layer of what this whole entire thing would have.
The implications of it are quite apparent.
And as you said, there will be a discord between states. And, you know, like, of course, like, how is it going to work? Like, you know, right now, you know, in Illinois, it's illegal to get a tattoo if you're under 18, right? Well, if I go to Indiana and show my Illinois ID, they don't give a fuck. Is it going to be the same now with abortions? You know, if I'm coming from Alabama and I'm driving to my state, you know, or if someone's going from Illinois, from Indy, or fucking going from Alabama to Illinois or something like that and getting an abortion, are they going to flag the ID, or are they going to send them back like, no, we can't give you an abortion because, you know, you're from a different state and, you know, you're a state that doesn't support abortion, so we can't give you one. You know what I mean? Like, how is that going to work? How are they going to be able to check, you know, that each person that comes and gets an abortion is actually okay for that abortion? Like, I don't want to have, you know, let's say me as a parent, I don't want to drive out, like, or me as a person, I don't want to have to drive out 12 hours just to be turned away and have to drive back, now having to sit through a pregnancy that I don't even want, then after having the pregnancy feeling fucking like a piece of like shit because of having this baby, but now also having to give it up for adoption, and then thinking about the implications of that's going to be lifelong, because, you know, some people actually end up like killing themselves after having, you know, a child and stuff like that.
Yeah. And, oh, that's not even getting into postpartum depression and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you guys didn't mention is that if they do have the child and they never wanted it, and they ban abortions, the fucking rate of child abuse would go up dramatically.
Yeah, child abuse.
Yeah,
that's
why I brought up what is it, postpartum depression, because that can be something. There are just some women that they have no love for that baby. Like, they just cannot stand that baby. Because that baby, in their mind, ruined their lives. It's a reminder.
And like you said, like, for example, like, if adoption centers are getting full, eventually adoption centers are going to be like, look, I can't take your kid. I can't take this kid. You know, you're going to have to keep it. Well, now what are you going to do? Because now you have an unwanted baby.
And the odds are they're just going to kill it. And that'll become another problem, just people killing babies because they can't get rid of it any other way. And it's going to
then there would be mass jailings, and then taxes would go up because of these jailings, and it would become such a massive problem because it's that quick. It would be such a quick change from having the one thing that helped women take control of their lives, and now to suddenly have no control over that aspect. It's just it's really disgusting. My eyes, at least.
Especially like for, like, I was, you know, going back to this whole entire teen thing. Like, if you had a child as a teen, especially, like, you know, if you had a child as an adult, it's a little bit different, but as a teen, like, you're still in school. You know, like, how are we going to be able to take care of a baby while you're in school? And then, you know, of course you have the people who are like, well, it's the parents' fault for letting the child fuck. And it's like, well, yes and no. Like, parents are not always going to be around their kids 24/7. And, you know, even without parents being around, I mean, kids lie all the time. There's always reasons, or there's always excuses that a child can make to go out and fuck someone or whatever. But, like, now are you going to really blame the parents for being like, oh, well, you know, and, you know, of course, then you have the children being like, oh, the parents being like, oh, well, if you don't get an abortion, we'll disown you. Or you won't be part of our family.
And that is something, too.
Like, how are you going to be able to, how are you going to say that? Like, if your state is, like, you know, abortion ban, oh, well, you know, now that you're pregnant and you can get an abortion, you're disowned from the family and we're going to kick you out. Now you have teens living on the street with a child that they don't want.
Or can't take care of.
And of course, you know, most of the guys, if most of the guys who get girls pregnant, like, as teens, don't stay, obviously they're not going to make that commitment.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you have that whole entire thing. It would just be a whole, like, a fucking ordeal. It would be an ordeal that I don't think people would really understand the whole entire repercussions.
We wouldn't be prepared for it.
We wouldn't be prepared for it. I mean, like, you know, prices are already up as it is, so it wouldn't surprise me if the
Baby
prices...
formula is in massive decline.
So I had an idea also. Technically, if that entire thing we mentioned does happen, where all this bad shit comes out of it, they're probably just gonna go and try to unfuck everything. Everything would be a little too
Which
late,
they
but they
can't unfuck everything. I mean, think about it like this too. You know, trying to unfuck everything is like trying to, you know, it would be very fucking hard to try to unfuck everything. Especially depending on how fucked up it is. Like, if it actually goes through and it actually becomes like a big issue, like, and you know, everything that we're saying actually happens, right? And now you have this whole entire thing of like, well, now we have unwanted pregnancies, we have, you know, teens on the street and everything like that. Like, how are you going to be able to bounce back from that? You can't
like,
get rid of children.
If that fucks up, yeah, you're gonna like just like make like a fucking holocaust for unborn
the
kids.
fetus. Like,
Not unborn. Grab the shotgun, Martha. We're going kid hunting tonight. State's paying us for this.
Hey, Martha, you want to go to the annual baby crushing festival?
It's not like that though, you know. It's like
hey, Uncle Cletus,
it's very
wanna go stomp some
and
fetuses?
that's the thing too, because like I've seen, like, I've helped a friend get an abortion before. Like, I came with her because she had a one-night stand with a guy and came up positive on a test because she was having morning sickness. And it is a very, very, very personal experience, and they know how to go about it in a very caring, soft-touched way, where it's not like, yeah, and they're like, they make sure you're comfortable. They ask how long it was since since conception, like since you've had sex. And, you know, they gauge that. They run some tests on you. Or from what she did, they did blood tests because she's anemic, and they needed to see how she could take to the abortion. But it was very personal, but it wasn't aggressive. It was very, like, you know, back rubbing and all that stuff and talking, you know, just like keeping her mind off of it. And afterwards, they gave her brochures and talked to her about if she needs therapists and stuff like that, or, you know, if it was something that was just a fling, was it rape, was it, you know, all this and that. And, you know, it's very confidential and also very personal, like I've said twice, three times.
You also have, like, I forget what the other thing was. I think it was, like, Casey versus Planned Parenthood as well, about, like, confidentiality and shit, which was another thing that they touched on. I don't know if anything of overturning, but that's basically everyone's right to privacy, a woman's right to privacy in abortions. Not just abortions,
exactly.
but right to privacy in general. And if that ends up getting overturned or gets rewritten or something, then think about rights to privacy in anything.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So it would be an issue on that front too, because now not only do you have all these kids and everything, but you have right to privacy. Now that's a privacy issue. Obviously, not everyone should go around being like, "Oh yeah, I just got an abortion today." You know what I mean? Like, no, everyone's not jumping around, you know, jumping for joy and, you know, leaping in the air because they got an abortion. And most people are sad and don't want anyone to know about it.
Because it's a very, very rough subject. It's very, very tough on the person that had to go through this shit. Or on the woman, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have pregnant men yet, unfortunately. That's still in the beta phases. But yeah, I feel like it would be very much so going backwards. It would be not progressive. It would be very regressive, because we'd be taking away an inalienable right in most people's eyes. To be able to have that choice and the choice of your freedom. And having a baby isn't very freeing sometimes. I mean, some women just love having babies. They're straight up baby factories, you know?
Baby making
And then,
machines.
yeah, like I had a family friend who had 7 children, and last I saw her, she was pregnant with her 8th. And she can do it. Like, those are, you know, that great on her. But, you know, there's just women that can't even bear the thought of having a baby because there's too much at stake or too much on the line for them, you know? And I feel like that it is inalienable for women to have that choice when there's nowhere else to go. Because I would rather that happen than, like, you know, the old tropes of, like, the coat hanger abortion or jumping downstairs and shit like that. Like, that would be horrible.
What the fuck is jumping downstairs?
What it sounds like.
On their stomach.
Yeah, like falling down the stairs and making sure they land on their stomach. That is something that has happened multiple occasions.
That just
Doesn't
sounds
work?
painful.
But that's
Probably.
the degree that some women go, or women in the past have gone.
So I even know some people to stab themselves.
Yeah, stab themselves through their uterus. Yeah, or
Like-
use a hammer. It's
like-
insane that some women are just that fucking desperate to get away from that situation.
But anyway, guys, I know this episode's pretty dark. I wouldn't want to say thanks for watching because like it's a pretty dark topic in general. So it's kind
We
of hard.
appreciate your patronage and listening to 4 people give their takes on what we believe should be an inalienable right.
What?
But
I'm gonna
yeah,
give you a hug.
like obviously when you guys are actually watching this episode, like you know, it's at the end of the episode. Obviously a bunch of like you know censor words or like trigger words for YouTube will obviously have to be bleeped and censored and stuff like that. You know, like rape and stuff like that. So right now I'm saying
Bleep
now,
that out.
Yeah. I'm obviously gonna be able to edit things out, but yeah, things are gonna be bleeped. So by the time you're actually seeing this, it'll be a little bit different. But obviously, of course, thanks for watching. I guess.
Thank you.
I don't know how else to really say
Don't
that. Next week's
die.
episode is actually going to be a little bit lighter. It's not going to be as dark of a topic. So, you know, obviously, it's going to be more towards our normal everyday program. As
I like
opposed to,
cheeseburgers.
you know, just this dark topic. But
We can
yes,
talk about.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next one.